the offense, they started off really well in the first half. They scored 23 points, and their offensive attack, it came off the run. And by running the football, you're opening up the pass. So they were taking the pressure off of Mitchell Trubisky. David Montgomery had 2 rushing touchdowns. You had Cordero Patterson had a rushing touchdown. And the Bears offense was moving down the field. Mitchell Trubisky wasn't making any mistakes. And he had a pretty good game for the most part, of course. And then, I don't even know how to begin with this defense. In the second half, this defense just flat out collapsed. Like, I never seen anything like it. This defense, when I tell you it flat out collapsed, it flat out collapsed. By giving up 34 points to the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, does not have an elite offense, you're making Adrian Peterson look like he's, 26 years old again? You know, I said this already in the first week. I don't even have to even say it anymore. But you made Adrian Peterson look young out there once again, scoring two rushing touchdowns and scoring a game-winning rushing touchdown at the end of the game. Now, what else happened? The play calling. This play calling, in my opinion, was just flat out bad. Not on the offensive side. Well, the play calling was bad on the offensive side for the last 2 drives of the game. And then for the defensive play calling from Chuck Pagano, it was atrocious on Sunday. You give up 400 passing yards in a game, it gives your team, it gives that defense a likely chance to lose. And they blew it. They blew it to Matthew Stafford, of course. Also, now, going to stats, Mitchell Trubisky, he was 26 of 34, 267 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a 108.3 passer rating. That is what I call managing the game. And with game management, you normally win games. But when your defense is not playing off the chains, then you have to become a great quarterback if your defense is not playing at an elite level during the game. And Mitchell Trubisky, although he wasn't elite, he did enough to win the game if the defense did not choke away the game. Now, also, it did come to mind to me that he did get stripped of the football at the end of the fourth quarter, and I'll get to that later. But going into the rest of the stats, Matthew Stafford, 27 of 42, 402 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, with a 109.4 QB rating. So he had one hell of a game. He did his job, and he just carving our defense up down the field. He was just doing his job. Now for rushing, David Montgomery, 17 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. The offensive line did some really good blocking this game, and David Montgomery was running up the middle, and he was getting really good results. I expect this offensive line to pretty much get better in the offseason, but this offensive line did look promising this game against the Detroit Lions. Now also you had Cordero Patterson with 10 carries, 59 yards, and 1 touchdown. So he added some help. He did add help to that rushing attack from the Bears. And overall, it was a really good game. It was a really good game most of the time for the Bears during this game. They had a really good time on offense. Now for the Lions, Adrian Peterson had 16 rushes, 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He just made our defense look like garbage out there. It wasn't just Adrian Peterson, but with Matthew Stafford alone, with those 402 passing yards, I already emphasized this, but 402 passing yards, not to mention Adrian Peterson with his 2 rushing touchdowns, that defense did not have a really good game. And I blame this all on Chuck Pagano. Now for receiving, Allen Robinson, he did his usual stuff, 6 catches, 75 yards. Anthony Miller had a pretty good game as well with 5 catches, 56 yards. He has been the missing link all season, and we need as much offensive firepower as we can get with our struggling offense. Darnell Mooney also had 4 catches, 43 yards. Cole Kmet had 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown grab. And I expect Cole Kmet to start over Jimmy Graham next season. Jimmy Graham has been wildly inconsistent throughout this whole season. Now, granted, he does have 5 touchdown grabs compared to Cole Kmet's 2, but with Jimmy Graham, he's been struggling, like the inconsistency, the struggling. One game he has 2 touchdowns and 80 yards, and the next game he has 1 catch for 7 yards. Like, he's really inconsistent. We can't have that. And I think we need to put Cole Kmet as the young tight end Cole Kmet as our starting tight end for next season. David Montgomery also gave us receiving help with 4 catches, 39 yards. So he did a really good job in running and catching the ball. He was doing a really good job. Marvin Jones Jr. for the Lions, he had 8 catches, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. He dusted Jalen Johnson, he dusted Kyle Fuller, he dusted Buster Screen. He got everybody. He embarrassed our coverage throughout the whole game. Eddie Jackson couldn't keep up with him. Tashawn Gibson couldn't keep up with him. And Marvin Jones had one hell of a game. T.J. Hawkinson, a really good tight end, he had 7 catches, 84 yards. He was another pair of receiving help for the Lions, as he was just a valuable down the field to Matthew Stafford. Quintus Cephas had 2 catches, 63 yards, and he grabbed his first career NFL touchdown over Kyle Fuller from a beautiful 50-yard pass from Matthew Stafford. And I hate saying those words because Kyle Fuller is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. This, I believe, is his 3rd touchdown allowed this season, so he's going to have to improve on his man-to-man defense. His zone is already covered, but man-to-man, he needs to improve on that. Danny Amendola also had 3 catches for 62 yards. Now, although 62 yards doesn't sound like much, he did have a pretty good game as he added significant help to Matthew Stafford in the throwing game. Now for the defense. Roquan Smith had 9 tackles. Akeem Hicks had 2 tackles. And with Akeem Hicks, he basically got shut down throughout the game. It wasn't a pretty sight to be seen. He didn't even have a sack. He really didn't do anything else except 2 tackles. So I expect for him to be coming back pissed off next game. Kyle Fuller had 6 tackles, yet he got dusted a lot by Danny Amendola and Marvin Jones Jr. It was a really bad game for our pass coverage. It was really bad. Bilal Nichols had 4 tackles, 1 interception, and a sack. He had a pretty good game overall. And with that 1 interception, this is the first interception by a Bears lineman ever since 2009. It's been that long. So Bilal Nichols, he's got hands, and I expect to see his Madden rating go up. I expect to see his Madden rating go up when it comes to catching. Khalil Mack, he had nothing. I'm not honestly mad at Khalil Mack. When you're getting double teamed and triple teamed all the time, then it's going to be pretty hard to go in and get sacks. It's going to be hard to get tackles. And when you're being forced to play pass coverage, which is something he's not really used to, then he's not going to get a lot of tackles out there. It's just not right. So with Pagano, with Chuck Pagano, the reason why I brought up his name for the 3rd time now, he plays soft coverage, number 1. Like, you're not having your DBs, you're not having your linebackers press up on the slot receivers and the wide receivers. You're not having them do any of that. Instead, you're just having them sit back 5 or 10 yards, and I know it's a zone coverage, but you're supposed to give them a little bit of physicality in there. You need to play a little bit more man. And then the other thing, I don't know what the hell's been going on, but why are you not blitzing? You know what? Better than that. Why the hell are you making 3-man rushes? Like, okay, we're gonna put Robert Quinn on the right end, we're gonna put Akeem Hicks on the defensive tackle, and we're gonna put Khalil Mack on the left end, and we're going to make a 3-man rush. You're making it obvious that you're expecting to pass. That's almost like, that's damn near like Hail Mary coverage. And honestly, you're making your defense look really predictable. You need to make some blitzes. Like, come on, an outside linebacker blitz, maybe a strong safety blitz, a free safety blitz, anything. A nickel blitz. Although our nickelback Buster Screen isn't good, if he's good at trying to apply pressure, you might as well go on and go with more blitz. I don't understand why you don't play with a lot of blitzing. That's a really big flaw in his play calling, and it's just flat out of hand. Like, his play calling has to go. And I say we should fire him at the end of the season. Enough said. For the Detroit Lions, Jamie Collins Sr. had 10 tackles, a tackle and a half for a loss. Everson Griffin had 2 tackles and 1 sack. And Everson Griffin, he's a really good defensive lineman. He's someone who creates a lot of attention, so he gets double teamed and triple teamed a lot. But when he's on, then there's almost no stopping him. He is a pretty good defensive lineman. He's a bit overlooked, mind you. Romeo Okwara had 4 tackles, 1 forced fumble, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. And he came up with the clutch forced fumble on Mitchell Trubisky at the end of the game. And honestly, when I get back to this defense, hold on one second. Matt Nagy, why are you trying to pass the ball when if you're trying to play keep away with the ball, you do not need to pass on 3rd down, let alone you're passing inside your own 10-yard line. That is one of the most dumbest plays I've ever seen in a football game of all time. You're up by 3 points and you're inside your own territory, and yet you give up a sack, Mitchell Trubisky fumbles, and the Detroit Lions recover. That is one of the most dumbest play calls I ever seen. Also, at the end of the game, before we get back to this defense, at the end of the game, the Bears were moving down the field, right? It was about 40 seconds left to go. They're at their 50-yard line, and they move it all the way down to the 30-yard line, right? They move it all the way down there. And it's, time has passed, and it was 10 seconds left to go in the game. So then, next thing you know, Mitchell Trubisky passes to Allen Robinson, who decides to step out of bounds below the 1st down yard marker, and now it's a 4th and 1. So now Allen Robinson set us up in that situation, and then, I don't even know how to say this, but then you want to, let's run the football inside on a 4th and 1. Let's run the football up the middle. See, it's uncreative play calling that makes you lose the game. Like, you could have came up with a read option. You could have came up with a screen pass. You could have done anything. You could have done anything else. But yet you run up the middle. Not only do you run up the middle, but say if you did convert, right? Say if you did convert, you have 5 seconds remaining, and now you're forced to spike the football, which now puts you at a 2nd down after you convert on the 4th down, which was a 1st down. You see what I mean? So you gotta be creative when it comes to that. When it comes to that stuff, you gotta be. Let's run the read option. You gotta run outside plays, not inside plays. Outside plays. That is the only 2 main flaws for this Bears offense during the game. That I can't really think of anything else. Like, honestly, they did a really good job. But other than that, these 2 offensive mistakes is what cost us the game. And then the defense, of course. Now, heading back into the Lions defense, Jerron Kearse also had 7 tackles. Now, our team stats. 1st downs, Detroit had 24 compared to Chicago's 26. So both of these offenses were moving down the field. 3rd down efficiency, Detroit had 6 out of 11 compared to Chicago's 4 for 11. So Detroit had a little bit more success on third down compared to the Bears, but those two, they were converting on third down efficiently, sort of. On fourth down, the Bears had no choice but to go for it on fourth down at the end of the game, so they were 0 for 1. While Detroit went for it on fourth down twice, and they converted once. And that one time they converted, they scored a touchdown right after they converted that fourth down. Now total yards, oh my God, I'm about to snap. The Bears gave up 460 total yards of offense. 460. To think that our defense is elite, right? Had no turnover, we did not force any turnovers, and you give up 460 yards of offense to the Detroit Lions. The Lions. That's not good. And honestly, that's even worse than the Packers right there. That's even worse. Now, for the Bears offensively, they had 389 total yards. So the offense did enough to win the game. Yards per play, Detroit 7 yards per play compared to the Bears 5.8. So honestly, this defense better toughen up, or else it's going to be a long 4 weeks to remain of this season. Now passing, it was 400 total yards of passing, all because the Bears had 2 sacks. And then for the Bears side, they had 249 total yards of passing. Now rushing, the Lions had 60 yards total yards of rushing compared to the Bears 140 total yards of rushing. So you see what I mean here? If the Bears run the football effectively, they have better chances to win the game. That's all I gotta say. And in yards per rush, the defense was doing pretty good in that department for the Bears. They're only allowing 2.7 yards per rush. So they were holding Adrian Peterson to a moderate game, except those 2 touchdowns cost us at the end. And then for the Bears, their offensive line did really good. David Montgomery and Cordero Patterson did really good. While they had, on average, those two both had 4.5 yards per carry. And then on penalties, I almost said the Pistons. The Lions had seven penalties for 45 yards committed, compared to the Bears 3 for 20 yards committed. So the Bears had a disciplined football game, but this defense and those 2 costly offensive mistakes is what cost us the game. And honestly, I'm royally pissed off that we lost this game, because that would have put us at 6-6, and we would have been second in the NFC North. And I would have been content with that, but now you have 4 more games left to go in the season. You're 5-7. You start off 5-1. You lose 6 in a row, and now you're 5-7. And honestly, it will take a miracle now for the Bears to reach the playoffs. I'm honestly not even motivated anymore for this season. It's been a really terrible season. It's been a roller coaster, and I have nothing else to say at this point. I'll see you guys later. I'm really upset right now. This is really terrible.